from the US. She's been very engaged in this. Her entire family is an inspiration for people who stand for human rights. And without further ado, I'm going to call Maryam Al-Khawaja to the stage.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I have to first start by thanking each and every one of you that have decided to come out here today and take a stand in solidarity with the Bahraini people. You cannot even begin to understand how much that would mean to every single Bahraini living under the terrorism of the regime today. I would like to also start by saying the same thing that I say at every protest that I speak at. The Al-Khalifa regime said to the protesters, this is a sectarian issue. This is Sunnis versus Shia. And the protesters responded, you do what you will, but we will not turn sectarian. This is not a sectarian issue. It's an issue about human rights, and it's an issue about freedom. And just the same, the Al-Khalifa regime said, we will use violence and we will try to make you use violence as well. And the protesters responded, no matter what kind of violence you use, we will not respond in violence. We will stay peaceful. Children, elderly, anyone in Bahrain who spoke against the government is being subjected to this kind of torture today. We have already had 4 bodies being handed over by the Ministry of Interior of people, protesters who died in detention because they dared to speak out against the government. Of course, the government tried to tell us that they died for complications, sickle cell anemia, and so on. But when the bodies were handed to the families, there were very clear signs of torture on them. And we believe that was the reason of death, not what the government says it was. I would now like to move on to share with you some of my personal story of what happened to my family. I was not personally in Bahrain. I was right here in the States when it happened. And I spoke to my sisters and they told me the details of what happened. My father is a prominent human rights activist who's been working on the Bahraini issue since he was around 16 years old. And due to that, he lived most of his life in political exile. That's why me and my sisters grew up in Denmark and not Bahrain. I never saw Bahrain until I was 14 years old. And because he has been such a hard critic of the Bahraini government and the blatant violations of human rights that happen in Bahrain, the government of Bahrain have always targeted him. In the 10 years that we lived in Bahrain, he's been beaten, he's been arrested several times, but never as severely as what happened last Saturday. My father and my parents and my sisters and my brothers-in-law were all in my sister's apartment at that point. There were nightly raids happening. The security forces always attack homes between 1 and 4 in the morning when people should feel safe sleeping in their homes. And they first went to my father's house. They broke the door, they went in and they didn't find him. They also went to my grandmother's house, who's an elderly woman living on her own, and they terrorized her, but they didn't find my father. But that is why my parents and my sisters actually got the news that they were coming before they arrived. And thankfully, we were able to take my 1-year-old niece out of the house before the security forces came. It takes them about 30 seconds to break the door handle with a sledgehammer. That's how long they give you to prepare yourself before they come into your homes. A lot of these riot police are not Bahraini. They're politically naturalized mercenaries that are brought from other countries for the mere purpose of serving in the security forces to oppress the Bahraini people. My father instructed my family to not respond, to not say anything, to not intervene, because he knew that the security forces in Bahrain do not mind beating women, do not mind beating anyone else in the family if they try to say anything or stop the arrest. So he asked them not to say anything and that he would leave with them peacefully and voluntarily. But as he was going to open the door, they broke the door, came in, and one of them started screaming at my father. My father walked toward him so that he would leave with him, but instead he grabbed my father from his neck, dragged him down the stairs, put him on the ground on the stairs, and 5 of them started beating him. My 3 brothers-in-law were also taken, handcuffed, put face down, and also beaten. But my father was beaten so severely that he was saying, "I cannot breathe." He kept repeating, "I cannot breathe." So my eldest sister Zainab, and some of you might know her as Angry Arabiya, she tried to intervene. She went and told them, he's saying that he will voluntarily leave with you, so why are you beating him? And one of the riot police looked at the others and he said, beat her and arrest her too for speaking. So one of them grabbed her from her shirt, pulled her up the stairs, and when my mom tried to get in between, because there have been cases where women were sexually harassed by the security forces during raids, they pushed my mom against the stairs and she still has bruises on her body due to that push. They put them upstairs in the apartment, they slammed the door in my sister's face and she still has the bruises. And then they convened beating my father until he lost consciousness. And after that, they took him away along with two of my brothers-in-law, leaving one of them behind after they found out that he was also a prominent human rights activist. Until today, and since Saturday, we do not know where they are. Now, it is one of the main human rights that if you are arrested, you have the right to meet a lawyer. You have the right for your family to know where you are. And for families in Bahrain to live for weeks upon weeks not knowing where their members of family have been taken by this regime, this is a blatant violation of human rights, not only on the national level, but on the international level. And for the US, for the United States of America, to say that we will not speak out against this because our interests will be harmed, that is another blatant violation of human rights.
Shame.
To conclude, I would like to say that a lot of Bahrainis today, they're not looking for too much. Right now, all they're looking for is for the terror to stop. People cannot leave their homes without feeling terrorized. There are checkpoints set up everywhere. Like I said, there are nightly raids. People are still protesting despite all of this because they believe in their demands for human rights and dignity. And they are being attacked by the security forces every day in their villages. My sister decided to go on a hunger strike 3 or 4 days ago to demand the release of my father and my brothers-in-law and my uncle who was arrested 3 weeks ago. And she is still on the hunger strike today. Her health is deteriorating. So please, I'm asking of all of you to take a stand, not only today, but even after you leave here, to tell the US government to take a stronger stand. There is something called the Leahy Amendment. The Leahy Amendment says that any country that violates human rights, the US government can actually decide to put a ban on arms so they do not receive any arms from the United States because they violate human rights. This is one of the simplest things that the United States can do. So I urge you, please contact who you can. Contact your congressmen, contact the senators, contact the White House. Tell them that the Bahraini people are suffering. And the time has come for people around the world to say enough is enough. Thank you.
Okay, what I've seen that you guys came down, so I want you to warm up. We're almost done. So, release the prisoners in Bahrain. Release the prisoners in Bahrain. Release the prisoners in Bahrain. Okay, I need it louder. Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Stop the torture 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 in Bahrain.
Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Stop the torture in Bahrain.
Stop the torture in Bahrain.
Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Release the prisoners in Bahrain.
Stop the torture in Bahrain.
Stop the torture in Bahrain.
Listen to this fully. Bahrain united will never be defeated.
Bahrain united will never be defeated.